So now let us move on to the next feature that is being discussed, that is metabolism. Now what is metabolism? Before we go into that, let's just take a really trivial example, more than an example, a statement. That is, there are chemical reactions everywhere around us and we are very much aware that they happen inside the human body too, right? And they can belong to different sizes, classes and different functions also. Chemicals. And correspondingly they will go into their respective reactions and it will give into different results, reactions, right? So now what do we understand from this? If it is also happening in our body, then it must have a result too. And now that has to do with this concept called as metabolism. Metabolism is a living process, and why I mentioned living right now is because in this case it is a characteristic and also a defining feature. Metabolism is something that will happen in our body. It will produce heat. It has many functions. It has many results which are important for us, which makes it as a defining feature. Okay, so now why am I mentioning metabolism is exclusive to us is because there is an example where such conditions, this whole procedure of metabolism was conducted in a test tube. Now I am saying a test tube, that is, what I actually mean to tell is that instead of the human body or any living organism body, we are transferring such reactions happening into an apparatus outside the cell. So it is happening in an isolated cell-free system outside the living organism body, right? And now we have observed that these reactions will happen. Now remember that these are termed as living reactions, but they are not necessarily called as, this is not a living being now. Why? Because it is not happening in a living organism. Okay, this is neither living or neither non-living also. It's just an apparatus where living reaction is being conducted. So we can say that metabolism is a characteristic of living organism because that's how we use to produce energy or take up energy or do the functions that we do on a daily basis. Now I'm able to speak to you, you're able to listen to me, I'm able to write on the board. So many things are happening simultaneously all around us, right? Now all these features is what actually is metabolism, and now that is a characteristic. True. Why is it a defining feature? Because it is noticed that this is exclusive only to us living organisms, and no living organism has this feature where they are able to use energy and produce a reaction in a different form. That's not happening. So yes, it is a defining feature, and yes, it is a characteristic too. Now next we'll deal with one last criteria, and then we can conclude this topic. Now let's talk about the last criteria, that is consciousness. Now this can be considered as one of the most complicated and yet essential criteria that is found in the living organism, because what does it deal with? It deals with the awareness that we have to our surroundings, the stimuli, the way we respond to externals around us, and how we understand them and how we interpret them. So now that is what is called as consciousness. Now let's see more about it with few examples, like plants. How can we say that plants are conscious? Because whenever there is a pollutant around them, or if there is good or bad air condition, water condition, soil condition and temperature conditions, they react to that. Like you will see wilting when there is too much of light, and you will see they bloom well when there is sufficient amount of light, or any other criteria that is important for that plant. There are many more examples actually, like how we humans, we ourselves, like if we are touched, we sense that this person has touched us here at this part of our arm. We sense it, we are aware of it. And also another interesting thing is that we humans, we have a special thing to do with consciousness. That is, we are self-conscious. We are aware of ourselves. Okay. And one more important point that is mentioned in the textbook is about something called as seasonal breeders. Now this is just a line mentioned in the textbook, but they are using this example to mention to us that how the external stimuli around us is important for living organisms. You might have heard of photoperiod. Now what is photoperiod? Photoperiod is the duration for which there is light falling for a particular time. That is period. Photo is light, period is time, right? So how long and at how much intensity this light is falling, and based on that this term has come about, photoperiod. Now these season breeders, they are dependent on this photoperiod for their breeding mechanisms. So this is just one small example given that how the most trivial things can be a very important factor in the most important things too. And now, as I mentioned, humans are self-aware, and with this we can conclude that yes, consciousness is a characteristic and so is it a defining feature. Because as we see, multicellular, unicellular, eukaryotic, prokaryotic, anything that is living, plants, animals, fungi, algae, anything that you may mention is conscious. But only thing is, we humans, we also do have self-consciousness too. Okay? So I hope this concept is understood. Now, let's just summarize this in a very small manner. We had 4 criteria. We started with the topic living. What is living, right? That was our question. And then we took four criteria. That was growth. Then we took reproduction. Then we took metabolism. Then we took consciousness. And with each we dealt, right? What are the examples for growth? We took the example of mountain and boulders to prove that this is not a defining feature. We took the example of a normal human being, normal organisms to prove that what does this mean? It means that it is the increase in the mass or the girth or the width of a body, and we understood what is growth, what is reproduction. It is how we produce more offsprings and progeny to continue the line. And it can be asexual, sexual. We understood that, but then we also saw that there are some living organisms which unfortunately are not able to reproduce. And then we saw about metabolism, something that happens in unicellular, multicellular, fungi, algae, and prokaryotes, eukaryotes, animals, plants, and so all the other living organisms. We saw that it happens there and it is very important. And we also saw that it can also happen in controlled conditions in an apparatus in a lab. And I would like to mention one term with respect to metabolism. The one that happens in those labs and in those apparatus in the cell-free systems are called as in vitro. Okay, you might have heard of IVF, the process where if a mother is not able to conceive due to various reasons, then the process is done in a test tube babies. You might have heard this term. It's because it happens in a sterilized condition, an isolated condition, but a cell-free condition. It is done by us manually in the lab. So those are termed as in vitro. We saw that example in metabolism, and then we saw about consciousness, where when we took the example of photoperiod and the seasonal breeders, and then we saw that how humans have self-consciousness, you, me, and everybody around us, and then we also saw that how it is universal to all of us and it is important to all of us too. And we took the example of plants and how they respond to their external stimuli, and that is just an example. Of course, there are many more examples. We are taking the simplest example so the approach is easy. Okay. Now, once we got to know about all these 4 topics, we saw that yes, they are all characteristics. That's the very reason we have mentioned about them under this topic of what is living. But are they all defining features? Now, again, I'm going to repeat to you, what does defining feature mean? Defining feature means that it is exclusive to a living organism. Say, this very cat, is it a living organism? No. Am I a living organism? Yes. So what is the difference between us? There should be something so exclusive that happens only in me that makes me living. So that is what makes me living. It does not happen in this. Of course, if you go down to the very subatomic level, there might be some similarities between us. Some process, some structure, something. But if you take it as an overall thing, there will be something that is specific to me, right? That makes me living, and this as non-living. Similarly, that is what the term defining feature means. And then we got to know that only metabolism and consciousness are the ones which are defining features, and growth and reproduction are only characteristics and not defining features. So I hope you understood this concept. It's usually asked, the defining feature term is usually based on this. We do have many questions, but there's nothing to stress about. Just get the difference clearly and try to find examples around you and find out why I am living and why that is not living, or why we are all living but they are not considered living, or it is not living but still why does it have the same property as me. Just think this way so that you can come up with your own explanation that sets with you and you can understand the concept better. Okay, I hope you understood this part also. So we have come to the last half of this chapter, where this was part of the first half, but I took it at the end so that we could discuss taxonomy and systematics in the flow, and we could come to the part where we talk about what is living at the end. And now we talked about consciousness just now, right? We talked about self-consciousness, we talked about interaction, stimuli, so on and so forth. But then there are some cases, say we take human beings itself, there are patients who are brain dead or who are in a position where they are living, supported by the machines that are the new innovations, but they're not particularly up and alive and walking and surviving like the rest of us are. So are they considered living or non-living? Now that's a good question to ask. But keep this example in mind, which has been given in the textbook. Now let us see the last part, the last paragraph that is a bit fascinating actually. That is, what is so special about the organizations, the cells, the tissues and everything around us? It's that as much as I said that all of us are independent from the cellular level to the higher levels, there is like, you have cell. Now this is something that we all know. Cells. Now if cells come together, now this is a tissue. Now these tissues will come together, they will form an organ, right? And now these organs, there will some different organs, they will come together and this will form an organ system. Now many other organ systems will come together and form what is called as an organism, right? And there's not just like the random arrangement. You take a cell, take another cell, put them together, tissue. Put tissues together, an organ. Organs together, organ system. Organ systems together, organism. Doesn't really happen that way, does it? There needs to be a good interaction between them. Now, why are they grouped like this? Why can't we just consider organism, cell? Why the whole concept of tissue, organ? Now, the concept here is because not all cells have the same function, firstly, and secondly, the fact that if this is one cell and this is another cell, when they interact together and they form a tissue, they actually form a better function. And now, again, when they form an organ, they form a better function, a more organized function. These interactions are very important, and it is what makes the living organisms and the reactions happening inside this living organism very important. And also, they are self-evolving. What do I mean by that? It's not like they don't adjust or accommodate to the changes happening in and around them. Now, don't be restricted to this. Whatever happens in the external also is very, influencing on this organism, right? So whatever this organism experience will be regulated by these. So even they will evolve and adjust to the conditions which are required. And they are also regulated. As in the term is a bit self-explanatory in the fact that they regulate in such a way that this organism can have and deal in a very green flag manner. That is, it can, go on with its day-to-day activities in a good flow without any, hurdles coming in its path. Now, when I talk about hurdles coming in its path, I mean physically or because of any external stimuli and all of that. So I hope this part is understood. It just talks about a very trivial matter, something that we all know and understand, but still I feel it is very important to keep this in mind because we have mentioned this statement, right? Evolving, regulating and interactive. Like what we actually mean when we say this is that what makes the living organism so special and so able to adapt with its surroundings and so able to understand and give away stimuli. It's just these three features. Of course, there are many more important features and many more important characteristics that makes it so beautiful. But let us remember these basic terms. Okay. So I hope you understood everything. We started from Ernst Mayr, then we came to the first half, we talked about taxonomy, and then we talked about binomial nomenclature, and then we talked about what is a taxon, the understood category, taxon, rank, level and all that, and then we came to the taxonomic hierarchy, taxonomic category, and then we entered into the game where we talked about species, genus, family, and so on and so forth. We went all the way up to the kingdom, and then we also discussed many examples, and then we also wrote 4 exclusive examples which were given in the textbook, and then we saw what makes it a living, and we basically were able to form a good basis to go ahead to the next chapters in first PUC and second PUC in the subject of biology. I hope all of you have understood. If there are any doubts, please do approach me in the comment section. If there are none, go ahead and ace your exams, and all the best. Thank you.